What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the weekend college basketball betting preview. I'm Stuckey, and with me, as always, is BJ Cunningham. Ready to talk some hoops?
Absolutely. It's a wonderful Saturday slate with the SEC Big 12 Challenge, along with another great games. So I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, it'll go a long way in determining which conference reigns supreme. You could, and Big Ten people, you included, you're going to get in the conversation as well. But it's like, all right, which, I think in KenPom maybe Big 12 is Big 12 first. Top to bottom. If you look at Big 12, you could argue, that the bottom of the Big 12 is better than the SEC, and so I like this for bragging rights. It's going to tell us a lot about all these teams getting out of conference and seeing those matchups. We have a lot to get to today. We will bring in our friend, Mr. Collin Wilson, as always. He'll give one pick and then get out of here. BJ and I will also go through Saturday's card highlights and spots that we have circled. We'll also talk a little Kentucky, Kansas. By the way, all the talk here in Lexington is Kentucky's got to win because they got to keep Kansas at arm's length to the Heisman Pose, because Kentucky has the most wins all time in college basketball history. They are 4 ahead of Kansas. So you get this win, you're pretty much guaranteed to hold that record for another year. If not, you're up 3. Kansas makes a run and Kentucky goes out early. All of a sudden, Kansas has the most wins of all time. So that's a talking point here locally, and I'm sure in Lawrence as well. Before we talk weekend card, and takeaways from this week, let's bring in Mr. Wilson. How's tracking the transfer portal going?
Oh, the transfer portal is wild. I think, we've still got 6th-year seniors, 5th-year seniors that are coming back. So we don't really have an accurate gauge of offensive lines. That Northern Illinois is going to return everybody. I think like every single roster spot is going to be filled with 6-year seniors. BJ, Iowa is going to be, I think they have one of the biggest returning production numbers on offense. So, the COVID pandemic 2020 has really not made this an easy process. And then at the same time, you got Brian Kelly shaking things up with new coordinators and new schemes. So, college football is wild, but I can't wait. When this podcast gets released, we'll know if Caleb Williams' last day to declare for USC is on Friday. And if he doesn't declare by tomorrow to start the spring semester, he may be Wisconsin bound. And I don't know how Stuckey's going to deal with that, because making fun of poverty offense is not going to be a thing for Wisconsin anymore. So that's how TARP's going.
Wisconsin will find a way. BJ, they'll find a way to still have a poverty offense. BJ, do you have a joke about Iowa State?
Well, I heard last time that said Iowa State was one of the worst teams in the transfer portal. And I was just, if you want to come on and just talk for an hour about that, I'm totally game. I don't know if we might lose our entire listenership in Ames, but I'm okay with that. But yeah, I mean, the Iowa defense.
Colin, yeah, you can sit on next week. We've had enough college football talk for this show. Before we lose the college basketball diehards. Colin, we bring you on every week. We'll talk some Arkansas sometimes. We talked them last week. Most weeks, if not everyone. We'll ask you for one pick and then get you out of here. I think you got a boxing class to go to. So you can, in case anyone, you owe anyone money and they chase you down, you can just beat them up. Or if you have to go chase down some money. You got one pick for us for this weekend?
Yeah, the beauty of having a 15-year-old daughter is that when you say, "Sweetie, would you like to have a shared activity?" and she says, "Come to my boxing class." That's how I got wrapped up into that. So,
it's not you're not boxing. It's your daughter.
I'm boxing with my daughter in a boxing class. It's off season for me now, so I got to get healthy before college baseball starts and MLB.
So it's like an all ages thing, and you can do it with your daughter. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Except my wife is a little bit more extreme than I am when it comes to working out. This weekend, I think the Arkansas spread is going to be way too inflated. And I love this Big 12 SEC challenge. Big 12 is getting a reputation that they're the best. And I even took a future on Texas Tech after that loss a couple nights ago. I think that this is a team that can make the Elite Eight. But I think in general, I'm betting SEC up and down the board. Arkansas is as hot as can be, 5 wins in a row. They're going up against a West Virginia team that's had 4 losses in a row. And West Virginia has been sending a lot of teams to the free throw line. Arkansas is absolutely feasting at the free throw line. So Stuckey talks a lot about free throw defense. If you don't have good free throw defense, Arkansas will eat you up. But I think the best bet this weekend, if Ty is back for Kentucky, I don't know if we have that confirmed or do either of you guys know? Pause here.
No, we're going to talk about that game later. I mean, Sheboy's hinted that he's going to be back, but we don't know. It's a twisted ankle. It's probably be a game time decision.
Yeah, and I think up and down the board, I'm going straight SEC. I mean, I would place a bet with anybody that SEC wins and covers more games than the Big 12 this weekend. I think the Big 12 is getting a little bit too much steam, a little bit too much hype. And, when I watch some of these games, Kansas State, they can't come back from anything. Kansas is having problems at home the other night. Texas Tech can't finish the job with their new coach. Beard's still trying to fit in at Texas. The SEC, I think, is not getting enough respect. I know LSU, people think they're hokey, but their defense is actually, can grade out, and teams that haven't seen it before, they can absolutely beat. So I'm going up and down the board and saying that the SEC will win and cover more than the Big 12 this weekend.
All right. Well, there you have it. So what I'm going to do, since I'm the host, and we'll just make this a contest. Every week we'll have something new to add to your record. It could be one pick for now to start your record, and we'll have a punishment that we'll take, or you have to take, depending on how you end up. You have every SEC team against the spread. We'll be kind, whether it's like open or closed. We'll be kind and we'll lean on the side of your side. So we'll see how you end up. And we'll just count it as one. So if you end up profitable, you're 1-0. If you're not, you're 0-1. We will see you next weekend. Good luck boxing and enjoy your weekend, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys. See you soon.
BJ, quick takeaway from this week. Anything that you want to mention, rant about, anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah, the Arizona UCLA game on Wednesday night. I think, the honest reaction to most people is, oh my gosh, UCLA won by a ton, like they're the new favorite to win the Pac-12. But I think everybody kind of needs to pump the brakes on UCLA and everything, because Arizona really just didn't shoot the ball well. If you look at the shot quality, post-game win expectancy, it was around 50%. Matherin went 2 of 16 from 2-point field goal range, and he usually shoots around 54%. Tubelis only played 15 minutes. So it was just a really bad spot for Arizona. And I was looking at their odds to win the Pac-12, and, they're currently tied with UCLA, and they're minus 120. UCLA still has to play Arizona on the road. They got to play Oregon on the road, and they got to play USC on the road. So at that current price, I think that's a pretty good price in Arizona. I don't think you're going to get much better as we go through here, because this is still obviously an incredible team, and really it's their Pac-12 lose, especially after Oregon laid that egg against Colorado on Wednesday.
Yeah, it was definitely an impressive performance, but everything went right for them, and they played like almost the perfect game, and then everything broke their way. But it's just one game. But yeah, I agree. I think Arizona, is still clearly the best team. I can't wait for them. I had that spot circled. I wonder how high the line's going to be when they get them on at home in the second matchup. My takeaways from the week, I have two. One, since we recorded this last Thursday, so I've been living in the slums since, I think I'm 13-21 since last Thursday. So on a poor stretch. Now, two things that I want to say about that. I mean, one, you're always going to have those stretches, but think of it. We always talk about shooting variance. Like, I've had some duds, some bad picks. You just have to deal with this in college basketball. End of game variance, shooting variance. Like, you're going up against those things. There's a lot of variance when you're capping college basketball. You're going to go on runs when those things are working your way. You're going to go on bad runs when they're not. The one good thing is there was so much more added variance, and I survived it earlier in the season up until like the last week or two, with missing players, canceled games, like it has calmed down a lot. I am so burnt out. I mean, we've been doing this every sports almost coming up on 2 years since March 2020. And it is exhausting. I went back and looked, and the COVID news that I beat in the market, I've lost money on, which I'm like, all right, why have I spent all this time doing this? I could have just said, I'm not going to stay up all night trying to track. Now it's, it's small sample sizes. It's like, how many games are there? 100, 110. NFL, it's even smaller. It's tiny. But yeah, it's the process, right? If you're not in that mindset and grinding, then you're going to be lazy elsewhere, and you just have to accept the variants. But I'm very excited that everything seems until the next variant or whatever it is. But that gives me peace of mind moving forward. And I think that, and that's the data from other countries was like that. Like, it's in and then out. So I think that as of right now, we're in for a much smoother February and March. This is also kind of like it's similar to the dog days of August in baseball. You get some duds, the crowds aren't as crazy some nights, and things kind of drag in conference play. And then like February 1st, it's like everything is kind of intensified. And it's all systems go. So I've had some weird Januaries. I've had some Januaries where I've been demolished, on pace to do that this year. I've had some Januaries where I've absolutely crushed. A very high variance month, or at least the way that I cap. But excited that the variance, it looks like it's going to go down from a who's out and who's in perspective. All right, let's move on to Saturday's card. We will start with the aforementioned Kentucky Kansas game. That's the marquee game. That's where game day's going on Saturday. We can see, I don't think there's any look ahead lines for games like this yet, but Ken Pom has this Kansas at home, one of the best home court advantages in all of college basketball. Ken Pom has Kansas 3-point favorites here. I have these teams pretty close to equal. I have Kentucky a little bit ahead. And my home court for Lawrence in a non-conference game is close to 4 points. So I'm like 3.5. I would need to bet Kentucky here, and I don't think I'm going to be doing it. I would need 5. I would probably need 6. And the reason, I'm going to make this around 3.5, 4. So just from the line value perspective, I think Kentucky has some decent matchups, but there's a lot of injury questions. Ty Washington turned ankle. The on-off splits, I mean, just the splits in general with him, when he and Wheeler are playing for Kentucky, or when either one of them are out, are drastic. He is just so key to running that offense. Gives him another ball handler, big on defense, and he's a shoot. It gives him another shooter. He's so important. I think he's their best all-around offensive player already. You also had Shibwe, who turned an ankle. You also had Toppin, who turned an ankle. They all said they're fine. Shibwe even hinted that Ty Washington's back, but like, ankles swell, and so there's a lot of uncertainty there. I think it'll be a great game. Tough place to play. Kentucky, I still don't know if, like, all right, are they like they've handled themselves well in these tough environments for like stretches, but they never have their whole team. They've been hurt and like against. So this is a really tough ask. This should be a raucous environment. I assume the line will come out around 3.5. It'll most likely be a pass for me. And yeah, I mean, it could be pretty high scoring game if everyone is healthy on both sides. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that if it comes out 3.5, 4, it's probably a stay away, especially if Ty Washington is out. I mean, it's a really interesting matchup between Shibwe and McCormick. They're 1 and 2 in offensive rebounding percentage. So the big part of this is going to be, all right, can either one of those guys stay on the floor and stay out of foul trouble? Because if one of them goes off the floor, then it's just a huge advantage for the other team on the glass. But like you mentioned, Kentucky, they jumped out quick against Auburn, and they actually had a pretty decent lead there until Ty Washington got hurt, and then everything kind of just, fell apart in the second half. If Ty Washington's back and Kentucky is fully healthy, like this is a good chance. If, like you said, if you can get 5 or 6, is a good chance on Kentucky. But Kansas is just getting by the skin of their teeth. They're on like live number, 4 or 5 now. They escaped Norman, they escaped Manhattan, and then they escaped Monday night when they really should have lost to Texas Tech after they blew a huge lead. So it's a really tough game to bet. It's one of those things that maybe you wait and try to live bet it. But other than that, I agree with you. I'm just going to stay away probably.
Yeah. One thing to note here, it is a really good point with add in more variance with if one of those two gets like 2 early fouls, it is just an enormous advantage for their team. McCormick has done a really good job. I don't think he's fouled out this year. No, he's not fouled out, but I mean, he's not going against a Shibwe. And one thing that Calipari's really conservative with Shibwe. So if he picks up like 2 early fouls, he might sit him like the entire rest of the half, like 15 minutes, and being like, I want him for the whole second half. So if that's the case, unless it gets like way out of hand, but if that's the case, I think you can live bet Kansas there, and then you can come back on Kentucky when he comes back in. Could be an angle, but we'll see where the line comes out. Make sure you follow along on Action Network app to see if we have any picks there. All right, let's move on to Saturday. Buy low spot. What do you got?
I'll go Northwestern. They're taking on Illinois this weekend. So Northwestern's 2-7 in the Big Ten. They're 9-9 overall, but they've been one of the most unlucky teams in the conference. Based on their shot quality record, they should be 12-6 and 5-4 in the Big Ten. They just lost a heartbreaker against Michigan, where they were leading on the road by 7 with 5 minutes left to go and just couldn't finish the game. In the 2 games before that, they really should have beat Wisconsin at home. And now Illinois is making the short drive up from Champaign, potentially without Kofi Coburn, or if he's back, he's coming off a concussion. So it's hard to imagine that he'll be, 100% for this game. Northwestern has a good advantage. They're really good in transition, 1.13 points per possession. Illinois' bottom 30% in transition defense. Northwestern is just way overdue to win a close game. They're 2-7 in games decided by 7 points or less this season. They have size, they have bodies to potentially throw at Coburn, along with the fact that they're a fantastic defensive rebounding team. Ken Pom has us at Illinois -3, assuming Coburn's back. It'll probably end up being somewhere around there, but in some capacity, I'll probably end up being on Northwestern on Saturday at home.
I like it. I have that one circled as well. All right, I'm gonna throw out. This has to be the ultimate buy low, and I'm gonna go with Louisville at home against Duke. And look, I don't think Keels is going to play, I think he's super important to Duke, on both ends of the floor. Kay came out and he said he has progressed very well, but he has still not gotten on the court. In saying that, he's in the weight room. He's doing the things our sports scientists want to make sure we're treating this injury properly and not rushing his return. Went on to talk about, we want to make sure he's healthy long. So there's some rumblings that he's going to play. But I think based on that, they're going to be like, well, let's play it safe. We're playing Louisville. There's no reason to rush him back. So I think this line will come out a little high. And if this isn't Louisville's best effort of the season, what is, right? Apparently all the rumors around here were it was a toxic environment. No one was getting along. And now Chris Mack is gone. You're at home against Duke. And you also have the element of surprise here, right? Okay, let's throw in some different looks. The assistants the players are probably going to have some input. Let's try this. Let's try this. And, this has to be their best effort of the season. This is the bottom of the barrel for what we've seen from Louisville. And I think Keels being out is actually really important for Duke on both ends. So noon Eastern, ESPN, I'll be holding my nose and backing Louisville. It could go really wrong, but I think you're going to get value in this number. Sell high spot. Anything here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with, and this is a funny kind of sell high spot. It's Marquette. They're taking on Providence, which just got moved. Breaking news right before we taped this. The game's being moved to Sunday because of the weather in the Northeast. Marquette's won 7 straight games, including a win at Villanova. However, their last 4 games per shot quality, they have under a 50% post-game win expectancy. They're basically just
crazy shots.
Yeah, they're just shooting the lights out right now because they're not a good offensive rebounding team. They're outside the top 300 in offensive rebounding percentage. They're outside the top 250 in free throw rate. And, even if you look at their shot quality, types, points per possession, in finishing at the rim, 308th. Pick and roll, 208th, half court offense, 254. It's an offense that's just screaming for regression. Now, this isn't the greatest of sell high spots because they're taking on Providence, who by shot quality is the luckiest team. They're the luckiest team in college basketball. But this is kind of a look ahead spot for Marquette. I don't know if you can call it that because they have Villanova at home this upcoming Wednesday. So given the travel, given the game being pushed back, it's, and this is also they're on the road for the 3rd time in 10 days. It's hard for me to sit here and say, oh yeah, going up against the luckiest team in college basketball, it's a good spot, but eventually this Marquette team is going to come down to earth. So I'll sell high on Marquette this weekend and take Providence at home.
Yeah, I was actually really upset that these two teams were playing each other.
Yeah.
When, Providence stole another crazy win. They hit a buzzer beater to beat Xavier, and then Marquette another impressive win. but to be fair, I mean, Seton Hall really misses Bryce Aiken. I mean, you can see how important it is. You saw it against St. John's earlier in the week too. But these two teams are definitely running well. And one thing to keep an eye on AJ Reed's status. He's probably Providence's best shooter. But I like this. I like the spot for Providence too. If I had to go with one of these two teams, who have both been pretty fortunate, I'm going to throw out Syracuse here, and I'm going to sell Wake Forest high. Wake Forest has been surprisingly good, or I shouldn't say surprisingly good, surprisingly a lot better than I thought they'd be. Yeah, they're 7-3 in. Yeah, so I mean they're a half game out of first place in the ACC. They've been playing really well, but I really like this matchup. And I think you're going to get some good value based on what we've seen from Syracuse lately. And Syracuse has been a lot better at home, and what we've seen from Wake. I just don't trust the Wake Forest offense against zones. And if you look, they're 91st percentile in offense against man-to-man. They are in the 40th percentile against zone, and they've had over 300 possessions against zone, including one against Syracuse. And Syracuse went to Wake, and they lost in overtime. Fortunately covered. I was on them there. I don't like this team against zone. And the reason is they rely on getting to the rim, and that is where they thrive. It's not a good shooting team. And also it's not a good offensive rebounding team. So those are all the things that, that Syracuse limits with their zone, right? Yet they limit opportunities at the rim. Also, one of their biggest weaknesses is that they allow offensive rebounds, but that's not where Wake thrives. And Wake's just not a great shooting team, great passing team, great cutting team. And the zone kind of takes away a lot of that. And, Cuse doesn't turn the ball over as well. And they rebound really well on the offensive end. And what does that do? That limits transition opportunities for Wake, who's excellent in transition. So there's a lot of things at play that make this a really good matchup for Syracuse. Revenge spot as well. And I think that selling Wake kind of at the peak of the market here after they've been playing, I think, better than a lot of people expected. And credit to the Demon Deeks. Home dog time. You got
what's funny? My home dog is Syracuse.
Wow. All right.
I had it written
Double
down.
it up. You got anything to add?
Yeah. Ken Pom has it at Wake -3. So all of those things you said, I had that note written down about the zone. It's a great matchup, like you said. But, Syracuse, their last two games, they've gone 11 of 60 from three. On average, they shoot around 35%. So like major, like positive regression coming for them.
Yeah, Buddy Bam's going to get hot soon too.
Yeah.
He's been shooting cold pretty much all season.
Yeah. And, a lot of what Syracuse's offense is, catch and shoot threes. Well, Wake Forest is outside the top 200 in points per possession against catch and shoot 3-pointers. So basically just a good regression matchup for Syracuse. Plus with, like you said, with the zone, Wake hasn't won at the Carrier Dome since Syracuse moved to the ACC. So, like I said, Ken Pom has it at Wake Forest -3. I'll take Syracuse anything plus money or plus on the spread.
My home dog is probably going to be Denver against Oral Roberts, and Denver has one of the best home court advantages in all of college basketball. And just because of the altitude, the travel is always annoying, and they're always undervalued at home because of it. The worst bet in all of college basketball over the past 20 years, betting Denver on the road. So if you just take a team and then whether they're home or road in conference. So every team's conference home games since 2005, the most profitable by far, the Denver Pioneers. They're 85, 53, and 3.
Wow.
Against the spread at home in conference since 2005. That's 61.6%, covered by like 2.3 points per game. So I always show value on them. They're playing better of late. They've been on the short end of the stick on a number of games. They've lost like 3 games by 2 points or less. They've lost 2 in overtime. Their offense is a lot better than I thought. So yeah, I think that we're going to get some value on the home pup Denver, who it's never a bad bet. I said the same thing about Colorado last week, and unfortunately I lost by the hook on a foul with 1 second left. But I think we'll have a chance to cover with Denver. All right, let's go run down and mention any other spots you had circled. What else you got?
Yeah, let's go Northern Iowa at home against Illinois State. It's a good spot for the Panthers to really just flex their muscles offensively against a really, really bad defense. AJ Green, he missed the overtime loss to Valpo, returned for their past 2 games, the overtime loss to Drake, and then the win against Evansville. They're not surprisingly, but the Panthers are an incredible half-court offense. Ben Jacobson teams, they thrive on half-court. They're top 5% of college basketball in points per possession and half-court offense. Now, they may see some zone from Illinois State, but that's okay because the few times they've seen zone, they've put up 1.3 points per possession. Now, Northern Iowa is not a great defensive team, but they do have the best defensive rebounding percentage in college basketball and do a fantastic job at limiting opponents at the free throw line. Illinois State, not that great of an offense. So, Ken Pom has us at Northern Iowa -7. Hopefully we can get that, but I would probably play it up to -8.
Don't mind that look. I'll throw out, let's start Richmond, team that's tortured me this year, but I think they're figuring some things out of late. And I think they met, they're getting VCU off that like really emotional. They held on for dear life win at Davidson. This game should be around a pick. And obviously it's going to be in Richmond but in Richmond's gym. But I think it's just a really good matchup for Richmond. Richmond does not turn the ball over. They're top 10, I think, nationally in turnover rate, which means that VCU can't get out in transition. And in the few chances they do, Richmond is excellent defending in transition. And if you look, this VCU offense, when they're not getting in transition, and they're elite in transition, because usually it's just like a steal, kick ahead, layup, they're kicking out for a 3. The half-court offense is disgusting. And they're shooting like 41% from 3 during conference play. There's some regression coming. If you look at that Davidson game, they couldn't miss from 3. It's not a great shooting team. Richmond, by the way, is that they're on the other end of the spectrum. They're a better shooting team than they've been. So I think the regression is on your side here. Just a really good matchup. And then I think on the offensive end, I'm a little afraid because Richmond's like soft to me and like VCU's not. And that's the only thing that scares me. But Mooney's motion can use like the aggressiveness of VCU against them. We've seen that in the past at times. So I just think it's a really good matchup because Richmond, and if you look at their press offense, like 98th percentile, and VCU presses at that one of the highest rates in the country. It's like really, they got the ball handlers to handle this. So I think it's a really good matchup for Richmond.
Yeah, I had that actually circled as well. So it looks like
Wow.
we're on the same page now. Yeah, I'll add one thing into that. I basically had pretty much all of those notes except for the pressing numbers. But VCU is second in 3-point field goal percentage allowed, around 26%. But if you look at their shot quality ranks at defending 3-pointers, they're outside the 200s rank in points per possession. So a lot of, like you said, a lot of negative regression coming for VCU and just a really good spot. I'll go. This one's going to be fun. Late night. How about BYU and Pacific? Why not bet the most unlucky team in college basketball versus one of the luckiest?
1 in 13 against the spread, I think now. Pacific.
Exactly. Yeah. So now BYU is playing tonight on the road at Santa Clara, and Pacific is traveling up to take on Portland. So this we'll see with this line. It could look very different, but Pacific's going to be a double-digit underdog at home. Pacific before Thursday night has lost 6 straight games, but based on the shot quality, they should be 3-3 in those games. They already played BYU once this season on the road in the beginning of January. They lost 73-51, but the post-game shot quality was BYU 65, Pacific 64. There was about a 16-point difference in the shot quality of 3-pointers versus actual points. BYU was about 8 points more on threes and Pacific was about 8 points less. So it was crazy, like the regression coming. So,
that sums up like their entire year.
Yeah. BYU, Ken Pom has a BYU.
Our teams are shooting like 50% from 3 against Pacific or something.
Yeah. It's something crazy. They're like they're like 350th, I think, in 3-point field goal defense or percentage allowed
in conference too. It's insane.
Yeah. They obviously had that COVID pause and then they came off it against San Diego, which, they lost, but in the post-game shot quality was basically 50-50. So it's just seems like it happens every game for them. So at some point, I hope so, or else I'm going to be broke, that, Pacific will finally get some of that aggression back. So I'll try and get it against BYU, who's I think about 3 or 4 games above wins above what they should be.
Was that your last one?
I can do one more.
All right, I'll throw one out there first. I was just going to rattle off my last two if you didn't have one. So one I'll throw out, UCF against Houston. I think we're going to get a good number here with UCF. Look, this team is pro talent. They kind of play up and down to teams, and we've seen them at home like really play up. We saw it against Michigan. We saw it against Memphis. And, Houston's kind of been blowing out teams at home. They haven't really done much on the road. They've had some injuries, which I don't think are being properly accounted for in the market. And I think UCF can hang here at home. And Houston's going to live on the offense glass. They're going to get a lot of putbacks and easy buckets. But here's what it's a fifth road game for Houston. They lost to Alabama. It's not bad. They blew out South Florida. And then they won by 5 at Temple and 2 at Tulsa. So it's not like they've been trucking everyone in conference. They've been rolling teams at home. Here's what, if you look at UCF, they're really inefficient at attacking the rim and in transition. And in half court, they're good. And, they can shoot. They have a lot of shooters who can get hot and make tough shots. Well, Houston doesn't let you get out in transition, and they don't let you attack the rim. So the way that Houston plays is like not letting UCF shoot itself in the foot, in a sense. So I like that here. I like that it's going to be kind of slowed down into Houston's pace. Like people think that, UCF wants to run and they like to get, but they're not efficient doing so. So I think you're going to get an inflated price in just a home run spot for UCF, who needs this game. Like people are talking at large and they've been disappointed. They got to go on a run and they got to win this game. So I think UCF will have some value on Saturday. And I'll have my spots piece out. I'll write a little bit more about that. What's your last one?
Wichita State, Tulane. This is a good revenge spot for the Shockers, who lost at home to Tulane 16 days ago after leading by 14 at half. But it's important to mention that Wichita State was without Dexter Dennis and Aduze, two of their best players. So this time around, it's going to be a little different. Wichita State is not a great shooting team, but they're an outstanding offensive rebounding team, and they get to the free throw line at the second highest rate in the AAC, and they're making over 80% of their free throws in conference play. And most importantly, that's two areas where Tulane struggles defensively. Tulane runs a ton of pick and roll. Which really isn't going to work against Wichita because they're top 5% in college basketball in points per possession allowed in pick and roll defense. Additionally, Tulane is 36th in 3-point field goal percentage, but Wichita is 46th in defending 3-pointers. And Tulane, one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the country. So they'll virtually have no second chance points. It's a good revenge spot for Wichita. So Ken Palm has a Wichita -1 right now. I would love it at that. And I'd probably play anything up to Wichita -3.
My last two that I had here, maybe can we get like 6 with Alabama at home? I don't know.
I know.
But Alabama's the ultimate, you play them as a dog. They're just a high variance team. We've seen them lose to Georgia, and we've seen them beat Gonzaga and Houston, and they're going to shoot a lot of threes. They have some positive shooting regression coming. They're 29th percentile on unguarded jumpers. They're shooting. And if you look at some of these guys like Gurley and Quinterly, they're shooting well below their career averages. I also think that Baylor, their defense has been a bit fortunate in regards to perimeter defense. That's how you have to beat Baylor. You have to be able to shoot on the perimeter. So after a home loss to Georgia, it's a road loss to Georgia. You're getting Baylor at home. This is the spot you probably want to back the Tide. The other one, Nevada against Utah State. I still think Utah State has a lot of issues with Brock Miller out. They're not fully healthy yet, and they've shown that. And I was on them the other night, but mainly that was just because San Diego State was their third game in 5 days. They're coming off COVID, in altitude. I think that was more about San Diego State. Nevada at home. They just lost Washington to fracture their 7-footer to fractured fingers. He's their post presence, can block shot. You won't really miss him here. He could, Utah State's not going into the post, and I don't think it's a huge loss. You have another 7-footer and Will Baker, Throw Baker, I should say, you could bring in. Utah State was really excited to get that win. I think this could be a spot for Nevada. I like their advantage on the outside with an undermanned Utah State perimeter. And yeah, it looks like Rutgers. It looks like Nebraska's getting blown out by Wisconsin. This could be the spot. Nebraska gets Rutgers. Rutgers has done nothing on the road. Is this the time that Nebraska cracks through? And Indiana, where's Indiana going on Saturday? Maryland? They play Maryland?
I believe so. Yep.
Indiana's 0-8-1 against the spread on the road in conference play since last February. So we'll see if they can get it done.